Stillwater, Oklahoma. Years ago, doing an FCA conference, and a kid came to me and they introduced him, African-American kid named Corwin. Just kind of looked at him, he just sharp. I thought, is this a West Pointer? Who is this guy? And he sat down with me in my room, and we got to visiting a little bit. He was from Dallas, Pinkston. You ever been to Dallas, Pinkston? It's hard country over by Fair Park. Hard country. Went to Pinkston, didn't know his daddy. The father of the family was whoever was there that night. They literally did not have a place to send him mail in high school because he was always having to move between families. And he said to me, I saw my friends going to jail, getting shot, and getting hung on drugs. And I said, no. There's about to be a new branch on this family tree. And he said, what have I got to do? He said, the ticket is going to be getting out in college. It'll give me a ticket. Nobody had ever been to college. And so he said, I was going to have to do it. He said, I was a good athlete, could play a little cornerback. And he said, I was also smart enough to work at it and make something. And so he said, my office was the stairwell of wherever I was staying. He would go out and do his studies on the stairwell. And he pulled a 4-point because he meant to. He meant to be 4-point, and he did it. And he said no to everything else, and he would get up and study every day what was coming. When the test came, he could lay it down, and he ended up with a 4-point. And he was also a good cornerback. And he got him a scholarship to Yale. Yale. A lot of white receivers up at Yale. That's where you want to go. And so he goes to Yale on football and academics. For 2 years, he plays for Yale and realizes he's going to need extra time to study. He went full academics. He gets his degree in sociology. Well, he was a great enough athlete that he had an offer from Oxford as a Rhodes Scholar. So the kid from Pinkston is now a Rhodes Scholar. And he gets his doctorate in sociology. Where's he working today? Wherever he wants. Wherever he wants. Now that was a kid that said, I want this. To have this, I need this. Football and academics. And so I'm going to have to do this. I can't miss practice. I can't miss working out. I've got to run that 4.4. And I've got to have a 4-point. And so every single day for 3 years, he did what he had to do. And he hadn't paid a dime for college yet. Now, that's the difference between a daydream and a vision. When I was at seminary, Dr. Howard Hendricks looked at us one time and he said, you know, he said, I grew up in World War II, and not everybody went to college. If you were going to go to college, you wanted something that you couldn't have. And so you had to plan, and you had to hook them, and you had to bust tables, and you had to do whatever you had to do for 4 years to get that degree. And he said, he just looked at us, and he said, I wonder how many of you guys have ever wanted something you can't have. And you had to dig down and find a way to incrementally, an inch at a time, attain what you wanted to. He looked once at a bunch of businessmen. He said, how many of you guys were shaped by the effort you put forth to have what you could not get? And every hand went up. And then he said, how many of you are desperately making sure your children never have to do that? He said, the greatest thing that can ever happen to a human is having to desire, plan, initiate, persevere, and attain. He said it's worth all the years of college to say, I can get this done. And so that's what you need to be afraid of. In yourself, of the ability of sloth. To be you ready? To be a quitter. To start something and not finish it. Because it's just so dang hard to stop it. Now, the greatest thing that ever happened to me was being a mediocre athlete. Let me explain that. If you were going to be something in my family, you had to go to college. Nobody went to college. Nobody. And so my daddy made it to I think about the 8th grade. Mama was a high school grad. Nobody had ever been to college. Well, I said, I could do it in nuclear mechanics, physics. Or I could do it in football, one of the two. And I wasn't as good in quantum mechanics back then as I am now. So it became football. I had a good arm. I had quick feet, but I wasn't that good. So what I had to do from the time that I was 14 was take a ball out on a net and do a 7-yard drop and then throw a quick out. Do a 7-yard drop, throw it out the other way. Take a drop and throw about a 12-yard curl. I'd put a spot on that net and hit that curl deal. Then I had to do a 15-yard out. You have to throw it low and away where nobody but the receiver can catch it. And I did that over and over. Then you got to throw a short post and a deep post and a flag, all right? And so I worked and worked and worked. We were 5-3-2, but I got a scholarship. I had to judge between Navarro Junior College, North Texas, and Tobey School of Business. But I got one. 30-some odd guys on our freshman team, 7 got degrees, and I was one of them. And so it was worth everything. And then same way to go to seminary, to Dallas Seminary, of having to want something that you could not have unless you had to dig. Those of you that have any maturity whatsoever, would you agree with me? Yeah, it's a marvelous thing. What's this proverb mean? An inheritance gained too quickly at the beginning will not be blessed in the end. You give a kid too much too quick, and you ruin him. You end up with a Billy Bob Pittman. Does anybody know who Billy Bob Pittman is? I grew up with him. Hope he doesn't get this tape. His parents were wealthy, and he was a little bit too cute, too funny, too whatever. And he was a natural athlete. He never had to work. He quit baseball after his junior year. Went out for baseball as a sophomore and won all district, center fielder. And then he quit his senior year because something made him mad. His parents, or grandparents, gave him a brand new 68 GTO, 500 horse, if he would go out and play. Oh, please, please, please. Okay. And so he went out and made all district again. And then he went to prison. And he said to me one time at a reunion, the best I ever was when I was in prison. He said I had some discipline. Yeah. And so an inheritance gained too hurriedly will not be blessed in the end. That's why for